各位好，欢迎收看《凤凰大视野》。1925年，爱因斯坦延续了印度科学家波色的研究工作，提出了波色爱因斯坦凝聚理论，提出了原子群可以被凝聚在一起的可能性。到了上个世纪50年代，年轻而杰出的中国物理学家杨振宁以几年的时间，尝试在实验室当中把原子凝聚现象实现出来，但是很可惜，他没有完成。此后又经过了47年的时间，一位华裔物理学家终于用镭射冷却的方法捕获了原子，他就是1997年诺贝尔物理学奖的获得者朱立文教授。
朱棣文是以激光冷却的方法捕捉到在空气中以每秒4000公里的速度运动的原子而获得诺贝尔奖的，奖金100万美元。
And if it is not, oh, you keep it a secret and you go out and you try to make something and sell it and make lots of money and don't tell anyone else what you're doing, okay? That's not what science is about. The very first thing you do is tell everybody what you just did and you give the details so they can repeat what you did in their own laboratory. So it's very, very different. If you were in business and trying to make money, you keep it a secret, and your secret formula for frying chicken or making Coca-Cola, then it's a different thing. Oh, under what circumstances was I notified? Oh, they announced the prize. I think they announced it at noon Sweden time. And I also think that Sweden time is 9 hours ahead of California time. So that would be 3 o'clock in the morning. And what they try to do is just before they announce it, they call up the people and tell them. Because they know that once it's decided, in fact, the final vote is that day, on the Swedish Academy, as I found out later. Because you know that once a final vote happens like that, they can't really keep it a secret. But in this particular instance, I wasn't called because they couldn't get hold of me, and the reason for that was the area code in the Bay Area had just changed from 415 to 650, and so it was hard for them to call in, even though they knew the area code had changed. They actually do their research very well. They actually knew where I was. I was going to be at a conference in Los Angeles, and one of the colleagues, Bill Phillips, who did share the Nobel Prize with me, was at this conference. And one of the people in the Nobel Committee told me a story. He said that sometimes when you're in a hotel, in order to get a good night's sleep, you turn off the phone. So he called the hotel to make sure the phone was not left off, that it could in fact ring. He knew. And then he was concerned that I had not showed up at the conference. So he asked one of my graduate students, where's Steve? Is he coming to this conference? If not, where is he? And he said, oh, he's very busy, so he decided to stay back at Stanford and teach and do some work. And I sent one of my students instead. So they had actually researched where people were and what they were doing. But still, sometimes they can't get hold of people. And because of this change in the area codes, they couldn't get hold of me.
So how will you find?
Which one? This desktop?
Yeah, but you have to first connect, okay?
Yeah.
And then you go here, either synchronize, or you go resync,
Yeah.
synchronize with server for a day.
Can I add things on this?
If I let you. It's my calendar. Okay,
No.
Bio Symposium from 6 to 9.
Right. But
Okay.
for example, if I wanted to add on Friday the dinner with.
Yeah. Okay, so.
The morning the Nobel Prize was announced, we were woken around 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was very chaotic here. Reporters and television cameras all came to our house, and Steve had to teach a class that morning at, I think it was 10 o'clock, 10 or 11, and so he tried to carry on as normal, and so he went off to his class. And and started teaching his class. And I went and sat in because it was a very exciting day, and all the students applauded when he came in the classroom. But he immediately started teaching his class, and someone interrupted and said, look, you just got the Nobel Prize. Why don't you tell us what you did to get the Nobel Prize? So, you know, for Steve, he tried to carry on as normal and meeting his responsibilities as a teacher. And, of course, everyone around him was very excited. He was very excited, too, but he tried to meet his responsibilities as a teacher.
During this relationship where we were co-developing this field of science, the fact that one group would do something and we would see what they were doing, and we could do something, and then another group would do something, and it went back and forth like this. One idea or one experiment from one group would spur the other groups on to do other things, and that actually is the best part of science. It really shows that science is a collective adventure. It's not one single idea, not one single group or one single person doing it, but it's this collective idea that many people can contribute and in fact can spur each other on. There's a few occasions in science where it would be some singular genius that might do something, but in most cases it's quite the opposite. It's a group of people developing things together.
Detta kan i sin tur leda till konstruktion av atomlasrar, koherenta intensiva strålar av atomer som bland annat skulle kunna användas vid tillverkning av mycket små elektroniska komponenter. Professor Stephen Cho and Claude Cohen-Tanouji, Dr. William D. Phillips. You have been awarded this year's Nobel Prize in Physics as leaders and representatives of the most successful groups and collaborations in the extensive work of developing methods for cooling and trapping of atoms, a work which has opened up a new area of control and study of atoms and atomic gases. It's my pleasure and my privilege to convey to you the felicitations of the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences and to ask you to step forward in alphabetical order and receive the prize from the hands of His Majesty the King.
朱立文这位斯坦福大学的第一位华裔教授，学生们喊他 Steven。平日里，他习惯穿着淡色的长袖衬衫，袖子整齐地卷得高过手肘，显得清爽而又自然。自从1997年10月14日凌晨那个划破了宁静夜空的 来自斯德哥尔摩的电话传来了喜讯之后，他和他的家人便开始不得清静。从那时候开始，他就被媒体包围着。但是即便是这样，他仍然是一身简单的休闲服装，在电视、报纸和杂志上出现。他还是一样的他。
See, but I'm not different. So they think I'm different, but I'm not really different than I was before. So it's more a public reaction, especially among people who don't know of me or don't know me before or after.
And then if I turn on the microwave, what I see is side content with some heating and then some food.
So I always try to set aside time to talk with the students, and we're still doing experiments, and it's still very important to me. And so I'm trying to limit the times I give talks. So I pack all the times I give talks into just a few weeks. And I think the research is still continuing. We're making good progress. What is really happening is I'm just working now day and night.
And then if I try to cut the faces, I can see it. So it's perfect.
Oh, yes, I'm getting much older because of all the TV interviews. But I hope not. We'll see.
今年58岁的朱棣文在斯坦福大学工作了16年，他现在是物理系的主任。回忆起走过的科学历程，他说：“我从小到大几乎没有想过去做别的职业。平时他喜欢文学和历史，而文学是非常个人化的东西，科学则完全不同。他要寻找的是一种普遍的真理。之所以这么多年对科学有着浓厚的兴趣，最主要的是能够充分满足自己的好奇心。也许是出生在美国的原因，朱棣文具有和美国人完全一致的生活方式和生活习惯。平时美国的同事也没有想到他和中国有什么联系。他自己说，这种血统的影响是无形的，不管你信不信，我既是一个美国人，也是一个中国人。这跟自己的家庭教育有很大的关系。
It's really how long I'm allowed to spend working in the lab each day. My wife gets irritated at me if I go home much after 8 o'clock at night. And so maybe 10, 12 hours a day, and under special circumstances, she'll let me stay later. And that's usually 6 days a week. And I actually try not to work on Sunday, although it's hard not to, because there's some things sometimes I have to work on. That it's not really doing science, it's more things like writing recommendations for students, for professors, people like that. I think if left to my own devices, I would work considerably more, but I also have a family life, and so my wife is right in insisting I have a more balanced life, and also she's fun to be with.
These teapots.
Would you like some tea? Chow?
Yeah,
Would you like some?
it's fine. Thank you.
Come and see my Chinese teapot. Yes, beautiful. Yes, very beautiful. I made tea out of this one, but they're mostly for art, decoration. This is where he cooks.
English tea or green tea? Which
It's okay.
This one?
Yeah.
This reflects our two cultures, English tea and Chinese tea. It doesn't come up into leaves.
This doesn't? What does it do?
Well, maybe it does.
It's scientists in China.
Really?
Yeah. In the early days, before 1949.
For my last birthday, Steve asked me what I wanted, so I said I wanted new lights in the kitchen.
Christmas present.
Oh, I thought it was a birthday present. So he put these he installed all these lights in the kitchen for me. It took him 10 hours to do it.
It's for you.
For me.
First that. Secondly, he strongly recommends.
I think the first thing that made me fall in love with my husband was his love of life in all respects. Everything he gets involved with, he gives 100%, more than 100%. Whether it's a physics problem or playing tennis or doing a crossword puzzle or building something for the house, he gives his heart. And that makes it very exciting to live with, although very exhausting to live with, because he's always constantly on the go. I've learned a great deal from him, partly because our cultures are so different. He's from Chinese culture, and I was born and raised in Wales, in Great Britain, and the Welsh are very different from the Chinese. If one can generalize about people. The Welsh tend to be very emotional and say everything that's on their mind. And my perspective of the Chinese is they're much more reserved. So Steve and I have had some interesting communication problems because while he is American Chinese and therefore tends to speak more, I don't think he's as emotional as I am being Welsh. So it's led to some very interesting conversations in our marriage. We very much enjoy doing many things together. I'm also trained as a physicist, although in a very different area of physics from Steve. I taught physics for 8 years, and I used to work in an observatory. So we have a love of physics. We also have a great love of sports together. We spent many hours playing tennis. I don't like to swim. That's the only sport we don't have in common. But we like to bicycle together and play tennis together. And we're very competitive. So I love to beat him and he loves to beat me. I want to make sure I can. So let's do it.
朱棣文的太太珍菲特当过斯坦福大学的校长助理，现在是斯坦福招生学院的院长。平时里他们喜欢争执，她常常笑话朱棣文讲话太多，而作为教授又有太多的心不在焉。丈夫得了诺贝尔奖后，她说了一句话：“很好，一切结束了，我们可以继续生活。”
And then I go.
朱立文祖籍江苏太仓，1948年2月生于美国密苏里州的圣路易市市。由于他出生在美国，又有着和美国人完全一致的生活方式和生活习惯，平时同事们从来没有想到过斯蒂文会和中国有什么样的关系。朱立文在获奖之后，他们曾经不解地问：“什么？您还是中国人？”而朱立文却忘不了自己的中国根。他曾经在1998年和2000年2次回到过故乡。在太仓寻根访祖的时候，朱立文曾经把家乡的亲戚给他的祖父的照片捧在胸前，一个劲儿地问他夫人：“像不像？你看我长得像不像他？”
Yeah, Claire.
Are you home?
Cousin. We're cousin. Yeah. No, she's Carol.
Oh, you Carol.
Okay. Yeah, we will go.
Okay, this line. This lane. Nice.
So, who are they? Father?
So you look so like your
Father, Steve.
Yeah. And your grandma.
And who's the other one?
Who's the other lady?
And other the second wife.
The second. Oh, which is the second wife?
Here.
On the left.
Yeah, on the left is second wife.
So the high cheekbones came from your grandfather.
Okay, so what do we do?
Go ahead.
You just and then you need to make like a
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
you know that.
Okay, ready? Go like this. And then you do couch. Okay, ready?
What is it, Bob?
Yes. Is that good? Three. Yes. Do we do how many bows? Is one enough?
So I need to picture over there.
Ready? You're gonna take a picture bow.
Okay. I made it. You think because you people there.
Yes. Good.
So yeah, we are set.
No, I think this is wild.
哎呦，小朋友还热烈欢迎呢！
烈欢迎，祝贺祝贺，热烈祝贺，欢迎欢迎，热烈欢迎。
Very nervous little son.
Only lights are right.
Traffic lights.
Yeah, lights. I don't know why my parents didn't do that. They certainly didn't encourage things. And sometimes these experiments got a little out of hand. I do remember once I was doing some chemical experiments on the kitchen table, and it caught fire, and I burned the kitchen table. And my mother came in and saw it, and this is this plastic table that we all used to eat on, and she started to cry, and I said, don't worry, I'll fix it. We just go to a lumber yard, and we can take a piece of plastic, and I'll glue it back on, and it will be all fixed. And so I did that.
Is actually the biggest one in Jiangsu province in terms of
Something safe.
part of it's induced by the parents, a typical Chinese family. Number one son, my older brother, was someone who was very well behaved, studied very hard when he was young, and was very bright, is very bright. And then I came along, and the teachers expected I would do as well in school, but by this time he had set a record for the highest cumulative average of anybody in the high school ever. And so it's very difficult to compete with that reputation. And so I didn't, and it wasn't until I went to college, and my first year in college, when I decided no one heard of my older brother and I could do what I want, and actually then became a very good student. And with my younger brother, it was even more the same. But my younger brother's doing far better. He's the managing partner of a big law firm in Los Angeles and has an excellent reputation as one of the best litigators in intellectual property rights in the state of California. And he actually had this reputation by the time he was 40. So it's a pretty tough family to keep abreast of. Because, in fact, I'm the only brother who only has one advanced degree. They all have either 2 or 3. That looks familiar.
Yeah.
So it's working now, right?
Yeah.
Yes. That's just like the work you...
No. Because you want low temperature and high density, then there is a problem.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean that you will use the shirt. Like
no, not necessary. Not necessary. The other thing, you have to be a little careful about is... Okay, ready?
好，笑啊，准备，笑，好。
Better.
OK， 他说这张好。
Better.
So, can you remember the relationship?
No,
yes, I remember.
Yeah, he remember.
I remember.
His father's brother who was killed.
Yes.
Yeah, that's his wife.
Oh,
That's his
okay.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah. OK
作为一名成熟的科学家，朱立文有着自己的人生哲学。他常常说，我们会时常受到挫折，但是永远不要失去热情。当年在选择大学专业的时候，朱立文的爸爸并不太赞同朱立文去念物理，而希望他能够学习绘画或者是建筑，因为在他看来，做这一行要出头实在是太难了。然而，身上满是物理细胞的朱立文，把绘画的天分用在绘制物理结构图上了。好在父亲后来并没有太刻意的去阻拦他，而他也终于凭借着自己的努力，冲破了这条被视为是娶妻的道路。
朱棣文出生于科学世家，外祖父在1923年赴美并获得博士学位，父亲朱如锦是国际知名的化学工程专家，母亲李敬珍曾就读于美国麻省理工学院并获得博士学位。1945年，朱棣文出生在美国密苏里州圣路易斯，毕业于罗切斯特大学，后来在加州大学伯克利分校攻读博士。1993年当选为美国科学院院士。他坦言，在生活中自己很真实，也很纯粹。年轻的时候也虚荣过、虚伪过，幻想过，也狭隘过。以前天下谁都不在乎，现在觉得天下谁都在。
Well, what happened is when they went to the United States, they were born and raised in China and then went to the United States to go to graduate school. And they did things, it was not that uncommon among people in that time, in that generation, So they decided to speak English to us when we were little. After we were older, they said, then we can learn Chinese. So, but then they waited until we were 6, 7, 8 years old. And then they said, well, we have to learn Chinese now. So they said the best way to learn Chinese is for us to go to Chinese school, which is Saturday morning. So they had us go to Chinese school for a year. And my brothers and I didn't like this. We'd rather go out and play. We were very American in this way. So we go to school during the week, and so we went for about a year. And then we said we don't want to go to Chinese school anymore.
朱棣文的老家在江苏太仓。2001年8月24日，朱棣文和太太一起到太仓寻根问祖。他说：“我太太出生在英国的威尔士，我还没有去过她的家乡，她却先跟我来到了我的家乡。这的确是一次令人愉快的经历。”
It's all right. I think about it in many ways like they think about it. It's and Chinese people take pride, and it's actually good that they still look at scholarship and learning and science and education put it in a high level. I think that's one of the good things about the Chinese culture.
在家乡待了2天，见了23位亲戚后，他来到了上海。
There's a similar place in Hong Kong which I went to. I did buy some.
It's wrinkle-free, 100% cotton. That's what they say.
That doesn't work. Contradiction.
It's not short sleeve.
这不是短袖吗？短袖的呀，这个。
短袖，short sleeve.
That's short sleeve?
Short sleeve.
How's that short? This is short sleeve?
Yeah, this means the length of the shorts.
Yeah, that 32, 33 is the length of the sleeve.
And also.
Did you see the problem?
Why would they put the length of the sleeve if it's short sleeve?
All right, I want to buy one cheap shirt.
Don't buy a white one. You have too many white
I
shirts.
agree. What color would you like?
朱棣文每年都要应国内大学和机构邀请回来1、2次。对此他说：“我从来没有勉强过自己，因为我这个年龄的人知道自己需要什么，知道活得简单一点才是高级。我只做我应该做的事。”
I think I know enough to know that I am standing between you and food. So I will talk for 30 seconds.
So I think still the joy of figuring out how the world works, and I feel blessed as a scientist because and especially as a physicist, because one has actually the machinery, we know the mathematics, so there's not much that I would say to myself, if I really wanted to understand this thing or that thing, I'm forbidden to. By forbidden, I mean intellectually forbidden to. Just as I say to myself, either correctly or not, if I really wanted to learn Chinese and drop everything else, I think I could learn Chinese. or if I really wanted to learn about molecular biology, I could really learn molecular biology. And so that's something I think the general population, I don't believe has that. They say, well, I'm going to really learn how to do physics and I can do world-class physics. They probably say, well, maybe I can't. Now, there's certain things I know I can't do. I'm not going to be a world-class athlete or a world-class musician or something of that nature. But intellectually, I think that with the training that I've had, that we give our students, that it's a very broad training and it enables one to go into any field that they really want to go into. And then once you have that, then you feel empowered that you can say, oh, that's interesting, I want to learn about it, and you go and you learn about it. And it's part of being a scholar, not necessarily even a scientific scholar, but a scholar in general. Scholars like to learn, they like to figure things out.
朱棣文在去机场之前告诉我们，中国人特有的精神和创造力，在科学上可以超越，在国家的建设上，同样可以超越。
朱棣文是继1957年的杨振宁和李政道、1976年的丁肇中和1986年的李远哲之后第5位获得诺贝尔奖的华裔科学家。他最早发展的利用激光冷却并且捕捉原子的方法，可以使科学家们在前人所无法达到的领域内操控微观物质，同时这也是对物理学理论的重大突破。为此，朱棣文从1976年做博士后开始，整整奋斗了20年的时间。然而，他在得知获奖的消息后，却平静得异乎寻常。朱棣文说：“我不希望因为这个奖励打断我的时间表，我仍然会像往常一样骑着自行车到学校去上课。”感谢您收看今天的节目，明天的大视野，我们再见。